on things, and hopefully you've learned a lot. And I continue to learn a lot every day. And so today I wanted to talk about strategic voting because I am hearing a lot at the doors and friends of mine the fear. They say, yeah, we're going to vote for you, but we're so afraid of the split progressive vote. Okay, so I want to talk first about what strategic voting is, where that fear comes from. But also, I want to preface this whole thing by saying I am coming to you today with this topic from the position of, and this is breaking news just yesterday, friends feeling like I'm going to win this election. And I'm not just saying that because when I started, became a candidate, I talked to David Kuhn about it. I said, look, Green has never broken through down here. There's the whole stereotype of, Saint Croix would vote for a blue ham sandwich if it ran conservative, obviously. And he said, no, you have a chance. But I've talked to you before about how important it is just to uh, get the confidence of voters and increase the percentage of the vote, and how Kim Reeder, all those years ago in 2020, broke the 15% margin of the vote. And when you break that magical 15%, you do get provincial funding from Elections NB. And of course, I've said before, that's why I have sign money, and that's why we have office money and an amazing team. But I am approaching this like just yesterday. I'm realizing that I believe Greens are winning this election in Saint Croix. So when I'm coming at you today talking about strategic voting, it is not by any means from a defensive position. And if you had asked me a week or two ago, I might have felt differently about it. So basically, today I'm going to say do not vote strategically. And even if that means you vote for someone other than me, I want this to apply to everyone, because if it's impossible to vote strategically for me, it's also impossible to vote strategically for someone else. Okay. So, like I say, I'm feeling extremely confident. There's just been too many moments where I'm getting messages, emails, people's asking for signs, friends telling me that their cousin who's voted conservative their entire life is now voting Green this time. I asked you to lend me your vote, and it seems like that is happening. So that is the preface. Now, what is strategic voting briefly, before we talk about why you can't do it? Strategic voting, and what I'm hearing again, is this sense that you look at polls or the incumbent or the advantage of another candidate. And so let's say in this case, let's just be honest, the Conservatives, this has been a very conservative riding. And there's only really maybe one major party where a Conservative will put their vote. And so let's say, of course, we're voting for Kathy Baucus. If you're conservative, Kathy will get 99% of the conservative votes. So there is, People's Alliance and other perhaps conservative parties running. But, let's say conservative is the big vote. Now, the progressive vote is split. And this is where people are concerned. I've said, well, people say, I watched your video, meet the candidates. Amazing. Look like a great candidate. I'm really worried about the split vote. So a progressive will look at the platform of the Green Party and the Liberal Party and maybe the NDP Party and say, look, they're split. Some people are going to vote Green, some people are going to vote Liberal. And that means, for example, that if Kathy Baucus were to get 30% of the total vote, because all conservatives vote for her, and I would get 25%, say Greens, and the Liberals get 25%, well, then Kathy Baucus is in, even though the progressive vote was a total of 50%. That is one of the massive disadvantages of our system, period. We want to see election reform. The federal government ran on, ending this whole first past the post. There's proportional representation. There's ranking voting, which would be better. For example, you could vote for your number one candidate, your number two candidate, your number three candidate. That ballot looks different. But as it is now, you're going to go in the voting booth and put your X next to just one name. And you're going to try to think, I hope my vote isn't wasted. And here's what I would say to that. It is a concern, vote splitting, but you literally cannot vote strategically in our riding, even if you could vote strategically in other ridings, because there is no data. First of all, strategic voting is weak because you would need to poll 100% of people and see where they're going so that you know, okay, my vote is not wasted, it is going to the majority. You're not going to see that kind of polling in Saint Croix. So when you are strategically voting in Saint Croix, really, we need to strike that and say you're hunch voting. And this is the thing where you're choosing a hunch based on what you think other people are going to do rather than a fully informed strategic decision. So again, you got to take the word strategic out of it. And you're not voting by your own values. You cannot vote out of fear. Again, if we're in this election system and we don't like it, but we need to be complying. And so you need to say, I've looked at the candidates, I've looked at the platforms, and you can even say I've looked at the leader, but to a large degree, in a rural riding like us, you need to look at which candidate you think is going to go to Fredericton and sit in the legislature and come back and forth between those two places, our community, sitting at all the tables with the mayors, working together with nonprofits, community leaders, the government departments, and go to Fredericton and work on laws and draft laws with the team and come back and do that and be someone who is a networker and a collaborator and outgoing and intelligent enough to know that they are not the most intelligent people if they're sitting at the right table, etc., etc. We need to bring all those things together as MLAs. And so when you're going to cast your vote, vote from your values, who you think is going to be the strongest MLA for our rural riding down here. And you've heard me say this before. We have been lacking a strong MLA in this riding for years and years, but people remember their strong MLAs. When I knock on doors, they can name the MLAs who they remember got things done. It has been years and years since we've had an MLA who gets things for a riding rather than just strips things away. So there is that piece of saying vote not out of fear, vote boldly. There is no way you can know how everyone else is voting. Now you can talk to a few friends, but a lot of your friends might say, "Well, I'm not going to tell you," but you might have a pocket of friends, and essentially what you want to be doing is remembering when you're voting in this system, you are giving your 100% approval with that vote. Parties don't get elected and then say, well, geez, we wonder how they look. Let's say they look at the percentage of the vote on the day of election night when the results are in. They don't say, well, geez, I wonder how many of those people strongly supported us. I wonder how many of those people held their nose and voted for us because, they didn't want somebody else to get it. That's not how it works. A vote is a 100% endorsement that you believe this is the best person for your riding. That's the way the system works. So as you engage in that system, vote boldly the way that your vote will actually indicate. And when I look at the results on election night, I will say this percentage completely supported me. This percentage completely supported Kathy Bacchus. This percentage completely supported Troy Lyons. That's the way this system works. Essentially, you want to not be influenced as a voter. You want to be informed. So you want to look at the issues. You want to do everything you can. Look at the platforms. As I said, think of the leaders. This is where, for me, David Kuhn, who lived here, lived in St. Stephen, lived in Wawig, raised his kids here. He is the leader. He comes down here, and when he's down here, he's not campaigning. He's not. He's hanging out with friends. He visits all the people that his kids grew up with and his good friends. And as someone who lives in the riding of Saint Croix as well, he and I feel that connection. He kind of looks at me and remembers raising his family. And when I accompany him places and we hang out together, I'm meeting all the people that he knows from way back. So if you're looking at the leader, David Kuhn has the strongest ties here. If you're looking at me, I know I'll be that networker and that person who goes to Fredericton and stands up for our riding and sits at the tables. I've already been doing it. This is the strange thing. I've been campaigning, but at the same time, almost it feels like I've become MLA already in a way, because I'm meeting with mayors and I'm sitting at tables and nonprofits and healthcare professionals and reading reports of our riding. And so I'm already in it, and I know I will be the person who represents. So vote boldly. I've talked to people who vote strategically and they feel terrible the next morning because they held their nose. They voted for someone who they didn't want in there, and then they just kind of sit with it and say, I regret, that's not who I want in that place. Vote for the person you want to represent you, because they're going to look at the vote count and say, this is 100% the mandate. And again, there is no way to vote strategically in St. Croix, because you do not know how the breakdown will fall. You just don't know that. There's not that level of polling. And the polling right now is really pathetic. Like the market Main Street research. I mean, they asked 900 voters across New Brunswick. That there's 12,000 voters just in our riding, and things are changing all the time in a small rural riding. And that's what I mean when I say the needle has moved so much since the Meet the Candidates event, since I've been getting out and talking to community leaders. We feel like we are winning this election. Anyway, don't vote strategically. For me, even if it's for green, don't vote strategically. Vote with your heart and vote boldly. Today is advanced polling day. I just want to very briefly say where the locations are. And so I'm going to read to you that you can vote today between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. So basically, starting an hour ago until 8 this evening in Macadam at the Macadam Lions Community Center, in St. Stephen at the Kirk McColl United Church Hall. In St. Andrews, you can vote at Wesley United Church, and in Campobello in Welsh Pool at Welsh Pool Hall. Okay, so 4 locations open today. We always say, and I say especially if you're going to vote for me, uh, go to the polling station, because you don't know if you're going to be very sick on the 21st or your car is going to break down. When you can get to the polling station, go to the polling station. There's another advance poll this coming Tuesday, and then of course election day is next Monday, but you don't know what's going to happen in your life. And as I said yesterday, 11 votes was the difference for Megan Mitten. I need your vote if you believe I am the best MLA for St. Croix in the next few years. Okay. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to tomorrow to coming at you with how the Green Platform has been evaluated by economists, and talk to you about a very unfortunate position that the Liberals have taken on glyphosate. This is all in the interest of continue to keep you informed and show you that Green is